Well, let's discuss more about the story now with SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good evening to you. President Ruto also touching on the war in Ukraine. He didn't seem to hold back. Share his views with us.
Well, he was clear that the world must respect the treaties and the rules that have been adopted by member countries of the United Nations. However, he indicated that he does support the African mission that is expected to travel to Russia and also to Ukraine to try and persuade the two leaders to engage in peace talks. Let's take a listen at what President Ruto had to say.
The war in Ukraine is affecting many aspects of our own economies, including fertilizer supply, commodity supplies that is now creating a huge crisis around food prices and commodity prices in a context where climate change has already exerted a lot of pressure in our economies this year, last year, the year before. And therefore, it is our belief that this war needs to stop. We are great believers as a continent in the principles of the UN Charter, respecting boundaries of countries, respecting independence of states, and avoiding unilateral decisions by anybody to alter boundaries or to change situations. And therefore, it is our belief that as a continent, we can also make a contribution in sorting out the challenge in Ukraine. I support the initiative by African heads of state to speak to provide alternative views, to give ideas on how we believe this war in Ukraine should be stopped, because it is affecting everybody, including those of us in this continent.
All right, Sophie, interesting perspective there on how to mediate. As a member of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, what is Kenya saying about the war in Sudan?
Well, again here, President Ruto was quite frank, calling on the two generals to really respect human lives, but also indicating that their protracted conflict in that region is going to affect ordinary people. Let's take a listen again, very frank on this issue.
We believe that what is going on in Sudan is senseless and must stop. Generals cannot use military equipment, military resources to destroy public infrastructure, roads, bridges, hospitals, airports. It is completely senseless, because these are properties that have been built by the sweat of African people. And military equipment, as I said, is not for the purpose of destroying public infrastructure. It's not for the purpose of destroying roads or hospitals or killing women or killing children. They are supposed to protect them. And it speaks to our own capacity as a continent to be able to tackle and handle this situation. There is all manner of concerted efforts that's going on in the war in Ukraine. We do not have a similar situation by countries in our continent. We need to rethink the Peace and Security Committee. To what extent can it remain a passive, organization when children and women are going through hell in our own continent?
Sophie also tackled this long-standing issue, calling for the transformation of the Security Council and how this relates to a just world.
Well, of course, he pointed out that this transformation must happen 8 years on since the launch of the United Nations. It can't be business as usual, particularly because most of the conflicts are on the continent and Africa is always on the agenda. He also pointed out that this issue of heads of state and government of Africa being summoned by member countries of the UN, particularly on trade issues as a group, is just not on. Let's take a listen at that.
We have been to US Africa. We have been to some other engagement with other countries. Now we have been invited for Russia-Africa Summit. We have made a decision, very respectfully as heads of state in Africa, that any engagement with other partners must be an engagement of equals. And for it to be meaningful, if we are going to meet the president of a country, we have organized ourselves that the Troika is going to represent Africa. The chair, the current chair, the past chair, the chair that is coming, and the heads of our regional economic commissions, about 6-7 people. But what happens continuously? When others want to engage with us, they don't want to deal with a troika. They want to invite 50 heads of state. So we go to a meeting, just explain to me what kind of outcome you expect where 50 heads of state are sitting. Everybody is asked to speak to 1.5 minutes. You speak to for 1.5 minutes. What kind of engagement are you going to get? You're going to get nothing, right? The best that you get is photographs. That's it. Precisely. You get these photographs, they normally line us up somewhere, you know, crowd of 50 heads of state, you know, and that's all we come home with, you know, because there isn't time to engage. Any serious country that wants to engage with Africa, yeah, must respect first our architecture. If we have said we are going to be represented by the Troika, why are you inviting 50 people unless you want to sabotage the whole discussion?
Very interesting point. I know it attracted a lot of mirth, Sophie, but there's a great deal of sobriety that one has to appraise his comments with. He went on to also kind of issue a salvo to the multilateral financial institutions, and this is a stance he's been reiterating over and over again, talking about there needing to be an alignment of plans that they have with Africa's aspirations. What did he say about this?
Well, he spoke about a terrible situation where IMF and World Bank, in most cases, when they give money to African countries, particularly the poorer ones, they don't even look at the GDP, but also they then look at, in terms of the economic growth of those countries, whether they will be able to reap, the payment will be done properly. And therefore saying that these institutions must transform. Let's listen again.
These institutions have profiled Africa as a risky investment, as a risky area. And as a result, they have made investments impossible in Africa because no private person can invest in a place where international financial institutions have classified as risky. There must be mechanisms of de-risking investments in Africa. If at all they are risky, we believe they are not. there must be a new conversation about the international financial system. So that, and by the way, we are not asking for an international financial system that favors Africa. No, we are asking for one that is fair. And asking for an international financial system that is fair is not asking for too much. It is just asking for one that is fair, that treats Africa the way it treats others. It is not practical, it is not correct that accessing development funds for those of us in Africa, we do so at rates that are 15, 20, 50 times much more expensive than our competitors elsewhere.
I mean, and it's interesting that he's making that plea, given Kenya's moves now to turn to both the World Bank and to the IMF for loans. So coming out of what he had to say, just a final quick words, Sophie, on this developing story tonight. One of the big international news stories is about that 2-hour car chase from paparazzi involving the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan. What's the latest?
Well, we are told that they are very worried that actually they were not so much in danger, but people in the streets were in danger because you had these cars, the scooters, and different way of chasing the story. And therefore, it could have happened that perhaps people in pavements or those who were driving in those streets of New York could have been hurt. And therefore, this is a stark reminder of what happened to Harry's mother, Princess Diana. And 26 years on, we are here again talking about paparazzi chasing them, and a reminder to Harry that he still has to do a lot in ensuring that people do understand that he has taken a decision to be an ordinary citizen, and therefore he has to be in different places, particularly with Meghan. And therefore, I think this is now a big story. We will get more information from Shawn Bryce in New York. We'll get a reaction from Washington, and we'll also get reactions from Paris, where there was this similar incident 26 years ago, and of course in London, the hometown of Harry.
SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, thank you.